Hey guys, welcome back. We do want to apologize for the Instagram followers. Last time we just had a bit of technical difficulties, so it didn't live stream on Instagram, but we'll be sure to repost everything. Everything will be reposted after the show as well too. So anything that you missed out, don't worry about it. But tonight, very distinguished guests, Brad Hartlin and Kevin Douglas from PSA. And it's such an honor to finally have a chat with you guys on CSE.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
It's kind of funny just because we talked so much kind of like not about this, but now we're actually sitting about talking about this. So
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you straight to the first question. So PSA, what would you say is like why has been a consistent leader within the grading industry and why it still holds its top spot?
I mean, for me, it's just recognition. They've stayed primarily the same for so long, and they've just kind of developed the technological side of things and moved forward with those kind of advancements, but kept their brand and their name the same. They haven't kind of gone crazy changing their holders or done anything different with their grading scheme. They've just kind of stayed forward, and that's just kind of grown the industry towards that. And then everyone else is kind of now adapting to be more like PSA as opposed to doing their own stuff. So,
Yeah.
Brad?
I agree with exactly what he said. It's longevity. The brand's been around. They've been consistent to who they are. The company as a whole is reinvesting in the industry. So they're constantly advancing from technology sides, the back end things that most people don't realize the amount of work that goes into grading a card. You can see it by even the setup that we have set up here this weekend. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, and PSA is constantly evolving with the changes of the times.
So when it comes to, like, you talk about in terms of technology, for, I guess, what kind of things you guys can reveal, what kind of technological things that are moving within, like, PSA? Like, what are kind of, like, the in-works of the technology happening right now?
Yeah, I think with everything with photo recognition, taking pictures of every card that enters the building now, then having pictures of it going out, obviously, when it's done. That's a big step. Buying the Gevimint technology. There's a lot of advancements that I'm not even aware of right now at this stage, but there's lots of things happening. The graders, PSA is the only company out there that stands behind their grades. I think if you're a buyer of a high-end card, me and Kevin talk about this a lot, when you buy that card, you know that the company's standing behind the card that you're buying. So I'm not in that space, but if you're buying $1 million card and if it came back that there was alteration or it wasn't authentic, with PSA, they're going to take care of you. It's the only company that has that policy. So that's another big thing. And when you start getting the big players playing in that space, a lot of the smaller cards, people follow suit. So.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome, especially talking back to what you guys were talking about doing on-site grading here at the Expo. I think when the news broke that was happening, I think everyone's minds just exploded. My jaw dropped. I was like, wow, it's happening.
Yeah.
So, and I just see such a, like, for those, I guess, who've never been to the National, they've not used to seeing such a huge presence that PSA has in terms of just the amount of space even you guys have. It's just crazy. But, wow. So what were the kind of the feedback that you guys got when word came out that you guys were doing live grading on site?
I remember a year ago I started the conversation with Ryan Miller, who I report directly to now. And we said we'd really like to have it. And that was a year ago we started the conversation. And to see it happen this soon, this quick, and to the scale that it happened was beyond impressive for me. You can just walk down. Me and Kevin, when we first came in and we looked at the whole setup. I mean, it's almost as equal to the National in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that PSA is taking the Canadian market very, very serious.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be players in this, and you can see how we just keep on growing and growing. Part of my new role is to make sure we grow our authorized dealer network across the country from coast to coast. And that's why when I have to get to work with our current authorized dealers, we have 8 now. We're looking to have a dozen. But we have KD Collectibles, who's leading the way, from a volume standpoint, the number 1 submitter in Canada. We appreciate everything there. We want to be able to help him out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything you want to chime in on that, or?
I mean, I go to the National every year, and I don't think I ever expected it to be them to reinvest to the scale that they are in Canada. I knew they'd bring up staff, I knew they'd have a nice presence, but their booth is almost a mirror image of what they did at the National, a show that is world renowned and has people fly from all over the world to go to. So to see that volume of people come up and support Canada and not really know what they're going to get in terms of volume, we're just kind of going with it this weekend, and hopefully, it's going well so far, but they brought it up. They have faith in us, and we got to put the faith in them. So
I totally foresee the next few days, like Hall 4 is just going to be packed silly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And you never know, right? We had projections that we want to hit, but when it's new, we don't really know.
Especially in a market right now that is kind of rocky, right? Like the trading card world right now it's a little shaky, so it's hard to say. There's a ton of cards in Canada that are worth grading, and there's even more collectors that don't want to mail their stuff away. So
absolutely,
giving people that option is massive for the industry. So
for sure. Speaking of that, like looking at kind of where the trends are in terms of grading, we definitely know over the last few years, like things like TCGs, especially like Pokemon cards, have like just huge amounts of submissions now. So where do you kind of see right now where we're at when it comes to like grading submissions? What's in, what's not so much anymore? Like what's happening within grading right now?
So you see TCG, Pokemon, and hockey. In Canada, it's they dominate the space. So if you look at the metrics and you see what was graded, if you go to GemRate, is a great site. You can see. I'm going to say I think hockey and Pokemon are 75-80% of the volume coming into the Canadian market right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge, and they're neck. Pokemon and all sports cards are neck and neck.
Yeah.
Right?
TCGs just come up from behind, and now you have so many different TCGs that are actually gaining steam, as opposed to you previously see things come out and fizzle out really quickly, but you have games like One Piece where people are not only playing the game, they're also recognizing the anime, and they're also now having the cards that they're like, oh, I want to grade these cards. And Bondi's doing a really good job, it's Bondi who makes it. They're doing a really good job at adding both a collector value as well as a playability, so that the games have longevity right at the gate, as opposed to other games that have come out and kind of fizzled out.
Or look at just Lorcana lately as well too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Lorcana, I'm getting cards every single week from Lorcana, and it's almost inaccessible as a product on the grand market scheme. Like, it's almost impossible to get. So
it's kind of interesting myself as a TCG collector as well too, is that it's like, I would say like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, less people were familiar that they were in the market in terms of grading.
Yeah.
And then when they finally start to see it, it's like, wow, it's like, oh, I didn't know things can either sell for that much, or that how to protect my cards a certain way, or to showcase my collection. And then it's almost like a huge awakening of sorts, of like a renaissance of like this new thing that existed in sports cards, but then just became like, have now transitioned to be the norm of. It's now like a staple now for TCGs in general, right? I would say.
Absolutely.
I would say there's very few TCGs that people aren't grading. At least on some sort of scale, there's very few that I'm not getting every single month, right? So that's huge.
I'm even envisioning next year the amount of Bedard Young Guns. Yep. Or like Wembenyama Prism rookies, or if they make Topps Chrome again, Topps Chrome rookies of that stuff as well too. It's going to be nutty. You know?
Absolutely, I agree. I hope they're too big. I hope Panini and Fanatics figure that out soon, and I really do. I think it's important to get that resolved. It's nice that from a hockey card standpoint, we don't have to worry about that. I think Upper Deck has solidified the relationship with the NHL and NHLPA, and they're in good shape right now. So
now that they're catching up on their products, it's a little bit gluttonous right now in terms of product, but now that they're catching up, that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
Do you think at this point, in terms of PSA, because a lot of people ask me about this too, moving on to the future, is, well, if there is a pandemic or demand as high as will it ever reach the point where it's going to have those year-plus kind of thing again, where people had to wait over a year to get their cards back? Do you see for like now with another grading facility and more things happening within making sure that it can handle that volume? Do
Yeah.
Could you address that to ensure people that kind of thing will happen?
I'm so confident that from PSA's standpoint, they can control it. At the end of it, they can turn the dial up, they can turn the dial down. You simply control that by price point. So all of a sudden, if submissions start to come in too much, you could turn the price up, drop the submissions.
No more special,
yeah.
They do monthly specials.
Yeah.
So that's why you see. So I am 100% confident you're not going to see those issues again.
And the capacity that they've built out even in the last 2 years with having Japan now on board grading.
Right.
As well as New Jersey. And now you have California, like the staple in California. Like, it would take a lot to disrupt what they've now built out, I think. So I don't think you'd ever see that again. But I'm not as integrated as Brad, obviously. But I know how fast my orders are coming back, and I know how fast the industry in general is moving, and I can't see it. I can't see it slowing down.
I agree.
So, future, especially here in Canada, we know the submission center that you guys have in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So, what's next in terms of that? A lot of people will ask you, is there going to be a submission hub in Toronto or maybe Vancouver? People are kind of like, what's next for PSA? Like, how can I? And some people just may not want to go with a third party submitter or whatnot. And want to work with you guys directly. Yeah. What are things that are kind of be planned for a lot of Canadian collectors who just say, I want to get my stuff done in PSA and. Is there any intentions later down the road of something that's a little bit more local for them?
Yeah, so part of my role at the end of the day is to make it easier for a consumer to submit their cards to PSA. Whether you submit direct, that's fantastic. Whether you use an authorized dealer, that's fantastic as well. Or you can submit them to the submission center. So you have 3 options out there for people to do. I really want to make sure we have an authorized dealer in every province across the country. That's my goal for 2024. Make it easy for people that aren't familiar with the process. They can go to someone that's reputable, that's approved as a PSA dealer, drop their cards off and let them do the work for them regarding shipping across the border, getting the cards back, etc., do the submission forms. So that's really my goal, is to, besides opening up another submission center in Arizona, at this time, we don't need that in Canada. I think we just need to grow the authorized dealer network and give guys like Kevin, Mint Inc., Luke Watch, Canada Grading, all our partners that we have out there, help them more grow the business. Because as me being a third-party submitter for 3 years before I joined with PSA, it's nice to be able to support them guys and hopefully we'll be able to give them tools so they can grow their business, and that's important. So
that's awesome. And just having the on-site grading and everything, it just seems like PSA, like you said, PSA does care about the Canadian market. PSA does want to service as much Canadian collectors as they can, and as Kevin and I know too, a lot of now these TCG collectors who are really just have fully got into the whole grading in terms of grading aspect of grading industry and collecting as well too. So truly amazing. Anything you guys want to share to our audience? Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Not really. I want to say thanks to you for having us. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor.
Yeah, and see all your shows, CSC shows. We want to be able to support them especially through our authorized dealers. You guys are growing, and I love what you guys are doing for the hobby. So we appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Me too. I'm around all weekend, so if anybody has stuff and isn't able to make it to the booth, or they're a vendor and they can't go wait, I'm more than happy to give you guys a hand and take those over and drop them off for you right at PSA. So.
Oh, and feel free to share about KD Collectibles.
Yeah, Kevin Douglas, KD Collectibles, and Brad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you once again. Our next segment on Very Swap will be delayed as they can't make it for today. So we're trying to fit that in tomorrow. But both Coach Co and I will see you tomorrow and do more coverage on the Toronto Expo. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys. Thanks.